chapter 10th of my book is called Problematizing the Art of Preaching. So in this chapter I will try to analyze in detail some of the implications of all that it implies to disseminate the message according to time, place, circumstance. And as I mentioned concerning the previous chapter, 9th chapter, some of our more contemporary acharyas at times say one thing and at other times seem to contradict themselves by saying at points Bhakti is inherent and Bhakti is not inherent. And as we have already solved in chapter 7, it is not actually possible to state that Bhakti is simultaneously both inherent and non-inherent. I have dealt with that when I analyzed the notion of teleological inherence. So in this particular chapter, as well as the following ones, I will try to engage in what I may call spiritual conjecturing, very much in the line of Gaur Ganodesh Deepika, where its author Kavi Karnapur tried to think about different statements said about the different associates of Krishna, of Mahaprabhu in the Gaur Lila, and putting all that together, try to think about which is their identity in Gaur Lila, although there were different opinions about that. So in a similar line, of course not imitating that and not on that platform, but trying to follow in those footsteps, I'm opening myself to analyze different possible options as to how to explain why someone like Thakur Bhaktivinoda at times said Bhakti is inherent and times said Bhakti is not inherent, maybe not with those words, but implying those conclusions in one direction or another. So of course one of the hypotheses, I will mostly present three main hypotheses. One of them is the notion of relative circumstantial adjustment, in which Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda, according to very specific situations, presented some adjustment into the delivering of the message, considering the times he was living in Calcutta and so on. A second idea will be that the difference of opinion are due to a theological unfolding, even though we can of course think of the Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his associates as Nitya Siddhas or eternally liberated personalities. Nonetheless, we can speak about the theological unfolding in their lila, as with Mahaprabhu that happened. So in that same way, their theological unfolding was taking place in time, and eventually they took a more and more, if you will, orthodox stance regarding the Siddhanta in this particular direction. And also the third main hypothesis I mentioned is what I call a translational issue in the context of how at the times when the Thakur Bhaktivinoda was living in Kolkata, the language of inherence was so much inherent, if you will, in the whole society, in the spirit of the Indians influenced by certain currents of Western thought, that on many occasions when Bhaktivinoda Thakur will have said Bhakti is inherent, actually he was speaking in terms of potential. So here I'm giving just a summary of that. And of course, after presenting and trying to develop these three hypotheses as much as I can, I also invite the reader to decide for himself, herself, about which hypothesis fits better for them, or maybe none of them. But I remain open. In this case, I'm not pushing in one particular direction or another, because there is no conclusive, if you will, statement about that. But nonetheless, while I remain open to whatever other reasons may come in connection as to how to explain this, nonetheless, Siddhanta remains the same. The Siddhanta about Bhakti being not inherent in the Jiva remains the same. And also one more point that I mentioned in this chapter, which I consider very important as a crucial background in which Sri Thakur Bhaktivinoda and also Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta and others were living in India, is how at those times, for example, caste Goswamis or this type of descendants from traditional paribars, bloodline from associates of Mahaprabhu, they had some kind of a monopoly of the the transmission of faith, giving initiation only through their ranks, mercy was coming, only from our hearts you will receive real bhakti and so on. So somehow Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by emphasizing this type of things, and we could extend that to his followers, they were trying to make this point, bhakti is not only in their hearts, but also in your heart, as a way of trying to dismiss this emphasis some of these people was doing and trying to spread the message beyond these few traditional lineages, since Thakur Bhaktivinoda, as we know, was a pioneer in terms of projecting the dissemination of Krishna consciousness worldwide. So even though we may see some apparent contradictions, again, at the end of the day, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is termed for us the seventh Goswami, and he is to be understood always in the context and under the shelter of the first 6 Goswamis. So those are some ideas that I will try to unpack in this 10th chapter.